Hello, everyone, and welcome. I am Jamin Shively. I'm here with my queen, Queen Melinor.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Jamin. Hi, Jamie.
And we're joined by our brother and fellow knight, Jamie Gilchrist.
Hello, everybody. Doing great, you guys. Doing just great.
Wonderful, wonderful. All right. Well, we are all happily on Whidbey Island, and we've got some important topics to discuss. The first of which will be carried by Queen Melinor. Queen Melinor.
Thank you, Jamin. Thank you, Jamie. Hi, everyone. We're here with you this evening because we are very concerned about Mother Earth's well-being and all living beings on the planet. And we would like to invite you to come and join us now without further delay, and come and join us in the story of how to save life on Earth, as much of it as we possibly can at this time. So please come in and join us in this conversation. It's urgent.
It is.
Yeah, and there's a lot of ways to join. This is going to be posted primarily on radish.org. The best way to join is to join radish.org, which we're just now in the process of launching in mid to late February 2018. So just keep checking in if it's not joinable yet. In the meantime, please post your comments on YouTube. Reach out to us through this YouTube channel. And you can also send us communications directly via radish.org. So lots of ways to join. And if it's a good time, Queen Melinor, okay, great. I thought we'd also then kick off the topic of, what are sort of like the foundational pillars of this movement that we have the privilege and honor to help, coax along its way. And one of those pillars is kind of like the table stakes of getting the message of how dire our current predicament is. And we point to and thank and acknowledge Professor Guy McPherson for his contributions in this realm, his communicating so clearly, so visually, through so many presentations and interviews, and really making it a conversation that we can, that really helps the, humanity as a whole to get that which is the synthesis of so many hundreds, thousands of scientists over the years who've been studying the various different aspects of this. Professor Guy McPherson puts together a great synthesis, and the gist is that we probably have on the order of a couple, maybe a couple few years left of human existence at anywhere near the scale that we know it right now. And without, splitting hairs as to exact time frames and whatnot, the bottom line is that we're very, very close to the edge of the waterfall. And if we don't do something now, there may not be much of an opportunity to do anything later. So I would call, just to, give it an easy reference, the Guy McPherson stuff, basic table stakes. I've interviewed Guy McPherson a number of times on the Guy Fawkes and interviewed him, and also on the Guy Fawkes and Jamin show. We've collaborated on a bunch of stuff, so there's a lot of great stuff up on YouTube. Just put in Guy McPherson. Then other pillars center around, what are we trying to achieve? What's our goal, right? And here I just invite everyone to jump in. Even if I'm midstream, because sometimes my motor mouth gets stuck in the on position. But we've begun to articulate, and we're still playing with the articulation of the objective as you articulated, Queen Melinor, saving and preserving and shepherding as much life on Earth as we possibly can, even in the face of the majority of life on Earth being slated for extinction, just given the very nature of abrupt climate change and where we are in the trajectory. I mean, we're basically right at the edge of the waterfall. So One can imagine, basically, here's kind of a visual. So the ship is right at the edge of the waterfall. The ship is going down, and there's just no question about that. Now imagine that on board the deck of the ship, there's a catapult, and we've got one shot to load up that catapult and catapult some giant package. Think escape pod, like at the very beginning of Star Wars, the original, Episode 4. The ship is able to catapult some precious cargo to shore while the rest of the ship goes down. And in fact, in the process of catapulting that which can be saved, it, if anything, accelerates the journey of the rest of the ship over the edge of the waterfall, right? One could imagine that we burn some rubber in the process, so to speak. We burn some rubber in terms of emitting a bunch of greenhouse gases in the process of building a bunch of arcologies, for example, to save and shepherd as much of life as possible. That's what I call burning rubber. But anyway, with that simple articulate, save as much of the diversity of life on Earth as possible, preserve it, shepherd it, so that even as the planet goes over the waterfall of abrupt climate change, we're still able to maximize the preservation of life on Earth.
May I interject?
Please, please, please.
So what's coming to me listening to you speaking, Jamin, is how can we be good stewards? What does that mean? And how can we be good stewards right now? Does that mean some of us become stewards of the water, and some of us stewards of the land, of the trees, of the bees, of songbirds? What does that mean? And all of your suggestions are welcome. What can we do now, today, to be good stewards of the earth and of the water, the air, the land, the plants, the animals, the fish, the birds, all of life?
If I could make a comment here to anybody who's tuning in and absorbing and listening, I am a very freshman student to this topic, and I took my first Guy McPherson lesson today. Very enlightening information. Now, even in his presentation, I believe it was one of his first ones. Jamie will correct me when I'm done.
I'll just post it. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll post it. Please, everybody, with an interest in saving life on Earth and Earth, the actual sphere, the blue sphere, that we're talking about saving that. Listen to Professor McPherson. You don't have to agree or disagree. Just listen. And if you want to fact check, he offers you many organizations and other colleagues of his and people he doesn't work with that you can fact check his data with. And you'll come away with the sense of urgency that Jamin and Queen Melianor are describing. And, not most people aren't going to see these videos, and most people aren't going to agree. They're not searching for the answer. They're immune to the problem. For those of you that are searching and are aware and are connected to the earth, this is the forum to bring any and all concepts, ideas, good ideas, bad ideas. Like I said, I'm a freshman here. I have a lot of ramping up to do. But the amount of data I've absorbed in the last 3 to 5 weeks, let's call it 5 weeks, is enough to awaken my inner neurons, and they have not stopped firing. And many people out there are sad and depressed and fearful and lonely because there is no place to turn. And that's no longer the case. There is a place to turn. And the worst case scenario is Guy McPherson's right about his predictions and his other colleagues. If they're right, we may not fix it, but we still will be trying. And if they've made errors in calculation and it's 10 years instead of 3 years or what have you, NASA might have made other predictions, or NOACA or NOAA. Nobody really knows for certain. But what we do know for certain is there's no question that things are hitting critical mass. And coming here and to radish.org is the forum to bring your best game, your best ideas, and have your network become the network. And this is where it's going to be born.
Very well said, Jamie. Yeah. And, you know, to be clear, that there's kind of a false dichotomy that sometimes emerges around Guy McPherson's message. And the false dichotomy is either A, all is lost, so just kiss it all goodbye, or B, oh, we can fix it, right? And I believe neither of those is the case. I believe there are shades of gray between those two extremes, and even if the end resultant shade of gray turns out to be nearly all is lost, let's say 99% is lost, just to give it a number, our objective in that case would be to go from 98%, 99% lost to 95% lost. Or even 98% lost would be better than 99% lost, right? And as pessimistic and as doomsday as that all may sound, that may well be the reality that we're walking into as we go over the waterfall of abrupt climate change. So I just wanted to make that clarifying point. That's all.
It's a good point.
Yeah, and it's still worth a try to do as much as we can.
Yeah, because
I was going to say that to those of you hearing this message and tuning into it to hear it, whether directly through a friend or why ever you're finding time to view this, you have an interest in it. We have nothing to lose. We're already in such a dire strait that the only crime we can commit any further is failure to act. Nobody lets the baby burn up in the house. You run back in, even if it's been burning for 6 hours, you go in and you try to save the baby. And we have to go in and try to save the baby. It's just that simple.
That's right. There's no other choice.
Yeah.
No other option. But we need you all to get on board because we can't do this, the three of us alone.
No, we need your help.
And by the way, it's not just the three of us. There's a whole community out there that we've been interacting with and
Absolutely.
enriching our conversations from. That's all of you who are watching, the whole audience, whether you're posting comments on YouTube or just meditating on this stuff. It's all helpful. And but what we seek to do is to build an organized, structured, collective intelligence that is focused on evolving and co-creating amongst the entire community all of the solutions that'll get us from 99% lost to 95% lost or 90% lost or whatever we can do. And again, I caution against the false dichotomy, which I think causes a lot of people to lose hope. When they hear 99% lost, they assume all is lost and that there's nothing to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think now would probably be a good moment to jump to at least introduce the conversation of what's there to do, what possibly could there be to do, right? And to kick that off, I will turn to Queen Miller, if you'd like.
What do we do to kick that off?
I mean, we could talk about our ecologies. We could talk about nuclear.
A really good question, Jamin, and I think there are lots of answers to that. And I think each one of us has a particular answer to that question, just depending on who we are, what our walk in life has been, and where our gifts lie. My personal way, which I've discussed before in talks with you, Jamin, of doing things is focusing my attention through art on getting a message out into the world about the importance of reverence and towards the earth and other living beings, and also just the way I interact on a daily basis with Mother Earth and nature and the creatures around me, whether it's through acts of kindness, however that plays out, whether it's saving a earthworm or feeding a bird. They seem like little gestures, but I think they're actually big gestures. And Jamie, I'm sure you have a lot to say on moving forward.
I don't have a lot to say. What I have to say at this juncture here, right here now, is we have a small but strong network of a few bright idea thinkers. It's not enough. We can't scale this up without without people out there saying, I've got nothing to lose. I'm going to red.org, I'm jumping in. All we request from you is your time, and both are easy to transmit with these mediums. Go ahead.
Hey, Jamie, I'm really sorry to interrupt, brother, but check it out. Your audio is not coming through. So could you do me a favor and try muting your camera, just like toggling your camera off, so that way your bandwidth can go into your audio, and then if you don't mind repeating, going on mute. Do you know how to do that, or do you need here? Here, let me show you real quick. Very quick.
Okay.
Enter.
Okay. You just go to right here. That's the camera. Poof. You just toggle it. That turned the camera off. Toggle it again. Camera's back on. Toggle it again.
And then I talk when it's off.
Yeah, because that way your we can hear you better, because the bandwidth just got really minimized. Is that cool?
Yeah.
And then we just see that image.
It's fine. Yeah, I don't need to be anywhere.
Okay, cool.
Okay. So, can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm here, though.
Okay, so what I was saying when our bandwidth got restricted was very simply, I'm actually glad not to be on the screen, because the message is more important than my coconut on the internet. We need you. Okay, this is my message. Go to radish.org, bring your ideas, wake up in the middle of the night, type them in, wake up at 4 in the morning, type them in. When you're driving to work, send us a voice text message, ask your wife, ask her sister, ask your professor, ask the policeman when he pulls you over on a traffic stop. We need all brain cells aiming this direction. And the quicker we can scale that up, the quicker we can get the correct solutions and the correct formulations, because like the cure for diseases are out in the rainforest, the cure for this is in our heads. And we have to have you open your heads and hearts and offer those suggestions, whether they're lunacy suggestions or complicated math suggestions. This is a non-agenda zone. Nothing you can say is wrong, as long as it's geared towards solving this problem, the destruction of Mother Earth and her life forms. That's the goal. That's what we're seeing. That's what I can say about what I want to say. And I'm going to re-say it over and over in future videos. It's critical that we want the smartest people to get involved with this. And that's not us. We're wonderfully brilliant, but we need much more of what's out there. And we happen to know you're out there and you're feeling this and you're scared. So come with us and jump in.
Thank you, Jamie. So well said.
Yes.
Yeah, and I couldn't say that any better myself. Having said that, I'd like to just throw in, just to kind of flesh it out for people a bit more, about some of the things that we might actually do that might actually help us go from 99% loss to 90% loss or 80% loss, right? To minimize the loss. One of those things is to preemptively, proactively prepare for shutting down all nuclear power plants and safely encapsulating and securing and putting a barrier between all the radioactive materials, whether it's waste or fresh radioactive materials or what have you, putting a barrier between those and the rest of Mother Earth, right? If that means creating giant concrete walled pits, like I did analysis before back in my days as a civil engineer, or what have you, that's one thing. If we can shut down nuclear and safely store and protect the vast majority of nuclear material on planet Earth, that can make the difference between the radiation. If all 440 nuclear power plants, nuclear reactors, go Fukushima in a Mad Max scenario, as the planet shifts into hothouse, then that could be enough to fry the atmosphere and prevent any life on Earth from persisting beyond who knows what kind of bacteria deep in the fissures of some rock someplace, and so, but I mean, with an atmosphere-free planet, can bacteria even exist? I don't know. But so shutting down nuclear, and that's a big, big job. But here's the thing: as this movement builds, as we go from a few dozen, a few hundred, a few thousand of us, just loosely connected, to a tightly integrated collective intelligence numbering in the millions, wow, then we can really bring some serious collective power and collective intelligence to bear, and we can actually do the miraculous, like kind of like a Marshall Plan for Mother Earth, where we marshal our resources in order to shut down nuclear as one whole step, and then for another. And I just wanted to show some stuff on some slides on our ecologies that Queen Melianora and I have put together a few weeks ago. Let's see here. Let me just do a quick screen share. So shutting down nuclear is one thing that we can do, and I'm not saying that's easy, but the main point there is that with the massive collective intelligence and collective power of all of us working together, we can possibly achieve that. And that may be a multi-year or multi-decade project, for which I bring in the concept of arcology, building arcologies that can shelter and provide tools and equipment and fuel and spare parts and vehicles and whatever may be needed for the people inside that arcology to shut down the nuclear power plants and safely store, and all the objectives that we talked about a few minutes ago. So what is this arcology concept? We talk about this in other videos, but it's basically, here's Arcosanti. I'll just show some images and just flesh out the idea in just like a minute or less. But it's basically building these protected spaces, structures that, here's Biosphere 2 in Arizona, that can house and protect life even in the face of Mother Earth going hothouse, jumping 10 degrees C or 12 degrees C or whatever the worst case scenario is. And I know that's a huge amount, and that most of life would perish under that scenario. Well, let's proactively and preemptively build these containment structures, whether they're above ground, below ground, on the ocean. Some of these images that we have are for, like this one's like a floating arcology that presumably can transport itself around. Anyway, there's all kinds of crazy scenarios, but we've got to brace ourselves for the falling over the waterfall. Yeah, that are going to happen. I mean, here's some concepts of arcologies that one could envision, on the edge of some city that's, going down in a Mad Max-like scenario, but there's a protected arcology, fortified as necessary, so that it can tap into the wealth and the infrastructure and the assets of that port city, for example. Even as the world goes hothouse, there may be a lot of stuff that we're going to want to, extract or mine from these cities, on our mission of shutting down nuclear. So you can imagine these strategically placed arcologies all over the place, right? Some with each with different kind of purposes. Some are for, some will be co-located next to the nuclear power plant so that we can shut down nuclear. Others will be strategically located in bioregions throughout the world, specifically designed and optimized for saving life, protecting life, shepherding life. Think Biosphere 2. We showed an image of a few moments ago. So I just want to say these are like two big projects that kind of go together, shutting down nuclear and building our ecologies. And these are examples of the things that it's humanly feasible for us to do something really meaningful about, even if we only have a couple years left of anything near normalcy, right? In terms of, an operating, functioning economy. I mean, one of our basic theses is that once we go Mad Max, it's going to be a heck of a lot harder to build a Biosphere 2 in the middle of a Mad Max world, right? With most of our infrastructure just collapsing, most industries, entire sectors of the economy just collapsing, right? So if we've only got, say, a couple years left or 1 year left or months left, whatever the time is, let's do what we can with the time and resources that we have so that we can make the most positive impact towards the mission, which is saving as much life on Earth as possible and as much of the diversity of life.
One of the things the three of us were discussing tonight is the importance of, to use a hard word, sacrifice that's going to be required from individuals and groups to do this work. So I just want to put that out there as a thought about, well, who of you will step forward and take action and join in on this incredible mission, incredible task, without thinking narcissistically, without in a way that's selfless and that really is focused on Mother Earth and taking care of her and doing what we should have been doing and what is essential now.
We need you guys out there to hear their message and to start paying attention, because it's not too late. It's close, but we have to try.
Thank you, Jamie. Yeah, and to be clear, it is too late to save, whatever large percentage of life that's slated for extinction, including possibly humanity ourselves. We may be slated for extinction. Guy McPherson certainly thinks so. And it could be that we are only able to build these arcologies to withstand long enough for us to shut down nuclear. And then, we go bye-bye ourselves. In my mind, that would be infinitely preferable to us just going Mad Max and then all the nuclear power plants going Fukushima at once. And then, because of our actions and our predecessors' actions, Mother Earth ends up as a hot, dry, atmosphere-free, lifeless, radioactive rock, right? But if we were to find the off switch to all these nuclear power plants around the world and build the arcologies to flip the off switch, however many years or decades it took for nuclear power plant, and let's be realistic, some of them are just going to go south, right? Despite our best efforts. So, in this case, it's, again, it's not a false dichotomy. It's not like all go Fukushima or none go Fukushima. It's shades of gray. Well, let's get it towards the lightest shade of gray possible with as few nuclear power plants melting down as possible. Simple as that, right? So, even if most is going to be lost, including our species, let's make our last act really, really count. I mean, what else are we going to do? Are we going to go down in the history of the universe as that species which, when presented with the opportunity to make one final positive last act that saved life on Earth, Are we going to want to know down as a species that did it, that made that last act so positive, that life on Earth was saved because we were able to shut down and encapsulate nuclear? Or do we want to go down as the species that said, nah, I think I'd rather watch a lot more Netflix and smoke a lot more weed, and whatever will happen, will happen. I mean, come on. I'm just talking to all of humanity, all of our brothers and sisters. You know, how do we want to go out if we're going out? And maybe some of us will survive. I don't know. Depends on how well we build out the arcologies. All right.
And the faster, or the more quickly you viewers out there join us, it's no cost to it. There's no membership. There's no agenda except survival of the earth. And the sooner you join, and the sooner you add your voice to this round table, the quicker we can get to tangible ideas. Otherwise, we're just sitting still talking to you. We need tangible ideas. And the faster you join, the faster you log on, the faster you give us your ideas and come to the forefront with your best thoughts, concepts, fears, whatever. The more people we have at the round table, the greater the likelihood of success.
Yeah, great points, Jamie. You know, and one thing I want to call the folks' attention is that there is this impossibly small percentage of humanity that even knows about Guy McPherson's message, and a much smaller percentage that takes it seriously, right? And of that small percentage that takes his message seriously, there is an even smaller percentage that has demonstrated a willingness to say, hey, what can we do in the face of this ongoing and building disaster, right? So we are part of that vanishingly small percentage. We need those numbers to grow and grow and grow. Remember, I refer back to the table stakes we talked about towards the beginning of the video. And so if now is a good time, Queen Millionaire, I thought maybe I'd show some of the project that you and Princess Alice motivated me to begin, and now Jamie has become a part of. So is this a good time, you guys think?
Yeah, great.
Yep.
Okay, so let me do a screen share and just kind of show some images of this, starting with okay. Let me just start with this slide that shows the strategy of what we're talking about, right? So, and this is very utopian, right? It kind of depicts that maybe we can save everything, which is, I clearly don't believe is the case. But nonetheless, here's the imagery. Imagine that this big red arrow here at the bottom is our highway to hell. We're on this is the path of abrupt climate change, right? You know, including, you know, human extinction, and turning the planet into this hothouse. All right. So conceptually, the idea of this blue arrow up above here is that we find an off-ramp from this highway to hell, right? And in this case, we propose a 3-stage off-ramp. Stage 1 is eradicate criminal drug cartels, and we'll talk more about that in a moment. But in the process of eradicating criminal drug cartels, we, the ones who are active in this movement, and we invite you all to join this movement as well, we will gain tremendous political capital, social capital. And we use that capital to expand into stage 2, to expand the mandate from eradicating criminal drug cartels to eradicating all forms of organized crime. And as we move along that path, we gain even more political capital and social capital, and we leverage that to expand the mandate to include organized crimes against Mother Earth herself, right? The entire oil and gas industry is one giant organized crime against Mother Earth. The militaries of the world are organized crimes against Mother Earth. Criminal drug cartels are organized crimes against Mother Earth. Monsanto is one giant organized crime. poaching, you name it. There's all these organized crimes. And what we're going to do is we're going to sharpen our sword in the battles of eradicating the world of criminal drug cartels. And in the process, in addition to all the political and social capital from doing this path, we'll also gain tremendous attention, media coverage, social media coverage, water cooler talk, lunchtime talk, you name it talk. And the talk will necessarily include, because we'll be leading the conversation, eliminating organized crimes against Mother Earth, right? So this is a whole pathway that can get people's attention. Why? Because it starts with the very, very simple path or step of taking out criminal drug cartels. Here I am with my mom, and Jamie here is to the far left with holding up that white document with these two giant signs. This one over here is the one that I've been displaying at the University of Washington and other places throughout the state. It says criminal drug cartels out of the state of Washington. We've actually got it here. I got a better close up of that, which is this one here. Okay. So here I am with my mom, and we were singing and dancing all day Wednesday and all day Thursday, right outside of Canacon, right? And here's Jamie, who's of course on the call with us, and he was decked out in his full DEA raid gear. Jamie's retired law enforcement, drug enforcement, K-9, and a really impressive resume. And so he was on the front lines of the drug war for many, many years, and realized that it was just a hopeless, failed mission to try to wage war on drugs. We ended up simply waging war on people. And anyway, so but that's getting into the details of it. It's a fascinating story, and in fact, the way that we're going to get rid of the criminal drug cartels, I summarize in this poster here that we also display when we're doing our thing. Oh, sorry, not this poster, but the... Oh, you know what? I don't even think I have it here. But anyway, the bottom line is it spells out that the way that we're going to get rid of the criminal drug cartels is by repealing prohibition. And Jamie, feel free to jump in anytime, because you've got a lot to say about this as well. But prohibition, just as in the case of alcohol in the 1920s and 30s, prohibition created the criminal alcohol cartels. They did not exist before prohibition. Likewise, prohibition of drugs has created the criminal drug cartels. It's perfect parallel, absolutely perfect parallel. And so in the case of alcohol, what was the solution to the criminal alcohol cartels? Repeal prohibition. And when we repealed prohibition of alcohol, we starved the criminal alcohol cartels out of the marketplace. That simple. It was the answer in 1933, and it's the answer today, 85 years later in 2018. It's the same answer. You want to get rid of the criminal drug cartels, you repeal prohibition, which we can do with the stroke of a pen. So we are so close to wiping out the criminal drug cartels. And by making this a national and international movement, we will give ourselves this tremendous boost down the path of this off-ramp from the highway to hell. So anyway, I just wanted to show that image. Here's another one that shows both of the signs, including the sign that Jamie was standing under. Retired drug enforcement committed to eradicating criminal drug cartels. There you see both of the signs in that poster. Yes. So this is partly to show that we're not just about talking and doing video conferences. We are on the street, demonstrating, talking with people, changing hearts and minds, and really opening people's eyes. And we had quite a captive audience there at Canacon in downtown Seattle. President Vicente Fox, who I've toured with a number of times, was there as a keynote speaker. Governor Jay Inslee was a keynote speaker. And not even a week before that, I was at Stanford University with this other poster that says abrupt climate change. Which side are you on? And it shows abrupt climate change like the Death Star blasting Mother Earth and beginning to destroy her. The destruction has begun. It's ongoing. It's getting worse. And it's time for us to rev up the jet fighters and the Millennium Falcon and fight back. Right? Let's blow up the damn Death. Now, of course, much of Mother Earth will be destroyed in the process. We're so close to the edge of the waterfall. That's inevitable at this point. But and it's ongoing, like I said. But let's get out there with our remaining fighters and Millennium Falcon and, really stick one up the you-know-what of the Death Star and take it out while we can, saving as much of life on Earth as we can.
So, Jamin, the Death Star represents the way we've been living on the planet for the last 300 years.
Exactly.
So we have to stop doing things the way we have been doing them.
Exactly.
Whether it's the type of industry we have, the kind of vehicles we use, the way we heat our homes, etc.
And the one thing I would add to that, my queen, is that what I mentioned at the very beginning about burning rubber, in order to build out the arcologies to shepherd to safety whatever species it makes the most sense to do. And also to shut down nuclear. To shut down nuclear may involve, revving up all the cement plants in the world to produce all the millions of tons of cement that we'll need to contain the nuclear. That's what I call burning rubber. I mean, production of cement and concrete alone is close to 10% of all greenhouse gas emissions or CO2 emissions. It's huge. So, whereas concrete per se is bad, at the scale that we've been doing it, we may want to burn a bit more rubber. Anyway, that's just to it's an important detail. Yeah, it's because it's not just about shutting down all the polluting industries. It's about strategically keeping some, leveraging some of those so that we can achieve our objectives. Holistically, your point is absolutely spot on. We need to transform the way we walk the earth.
Well, if I could jump in momentarily.
Take more than a moment, brother.
Let me say this about that. The push we've been doing to make awareness that create awareness that not only capable of shutting down criminal drug cartels, that push and time that we've been working on is to stop some of that industry scarring of Ecuador and Honduras, countries that have served this drug war going back 50 years. And we have raped and pillaged their greed and our addictions, and we haven't owned it.
Jamie, brother,
it is a war.
Your audio is really breaking up bad. So may I paraphrase kind of what you were saying? Do you think that'd be helpful?
Say, Jamie, please do.
Okay. All right. So, because we've been hanging so much the last several days doing all this together. What Jamie is saying is that by our complicity with federal prohibition, which is flagrantly unconstitutional for the 10th Amendment, among other parts of the Constitution, by our complicity in just letting that be and not taking to the streets to demand the repeal of prohibition and the eradication of criminal drug cartels, we're letting these criminal drug cartels take over, run, and ruin entire countries and entire ecosystems. Mm-hmm. And for example, criminal drug cartels, in order to avoid detection and confiscation and all that, they're deep into virgin Amazon rainforest, slashing and burning virgin old growth rainforest which is the cradle of the diversity of life, land-based life on Earth, slashing and burning and planting coca. And then what does the DEA do? When it finds those coca fields, it comes in and sprays its own dirty dozen toxic cocktail of DDT and agent, who knows what the heck, right? And really finishes it off. So it's a 1-2 punch. It's all caused by prohibition, 100% of it. So, and then you look at, you know, entire countries like Nicaragua, Honduras, Guatemala, that El Salvador, that have just been overrun by criminal drug cartels. And the economies have been so badly battered that, you know, the police forces are so underpaid, they can't even feed their families with their monthly salaries. So when they're offered 10x, 20x their salary to turn a blind eye, right? And of course, from there, you know, to the drug cartels, and from there, it's a slippery slope, right? The ones who are most easily, you know, corrupted do far worse than turn a blind eye. And so through American prohibition, we have caused all that I just mentioned. So when we shut that off and we eradicate the criminal drug cartels, we're going to see a whole new world. A new Washington, a new United States, and a new world. Free from criminal drug cartels. And like I indicated before, that sets us on a path, a guided directional path towards eradicating all forms of organized crime, including organized crimes against Mother Earth. See, we unite humanity around the very simple idea of eradicating criminal drug cartels. We set that small but achievable goal, and then we go from there. That becomes our catapult, right?
Yes.
Back to you, Jamie.
Well, that's it. And that mission is a lofty goal. And we're trying to do several things simultaneously. So bring your ideas, and we'll link you in on this Hangouts. You can talk about your ideas to your audience and ask them to join us. We want more people to bring their ideas to these serious and impending problems. And we're not going to paraphrase. You're going to get to talk to your audience, and they'll bring their ideas, and they'll bring their ideas. And thus the collective intelligence will become its own breathing machine to breed solutions.
Thank you, Jamie.
Thanks, Jamie.
Yeah,
Really
totally.
well said.
And radish.org, see, as opposed to YouTube, whereas YouTube, you just got one channel, right? And you're watching this on the Jamin Shively channel. Of course, a lot of stuff on this channel. With radish.org, everyone can have their own channel on Radish. And the entirety of radish.org is with the express and explicit purpose of co-creating all of the solutions that we'll need. Technological solutions, engineering solutions, cultural solutions, solutions in the realm of myth and story, organizational solutions. See, we're going to need to reorient much of the focus and much of the power and assets of the entire global economy towards this mission, right? And we're starting one small step at a time, starting with eradicating criminal drug cartels from the state of Washington, expanding to all 50 states and around the world, as we discussed, and then gaining tremendous power by doing that. That's the catapult. Now we've got a worldwide audience that measures in the hundreds of millions, and we get the full message in there, right? Because people will interview us. 60 Minutes will interview us. So many programs, so many different channels. That's why we're emphasizing the message and not the medium at this point. Well, the medium of Radish, we are definitely emphasizing. That's part of the message, is that we need this collective intelligence to co-create all these solutions, including the solution to the problem of how do you organize humanity and organize our resources on planet Earth, or the resources of Mother Earth, man-made and otherwise, to achieve all the above. You're welcome. And my queen, you got us on this path. You and Princess Alice were the ones who told me, Jamin, you need to do something about these drug cartels. And that really, got me off my butt. And that's really how I see our general pattern. We need the divine feminine to guide us knights and warriors to get out into battle and do what we need to do for Mother Earth, whether it's drug cartels or whether it's permaculture or whether it's designing and building our ecologies or figuring out all the mechanisms to shut down nuclear as quickly as possible. Jamie, I know you've got some great contacts in the nuclear industry.
Yeah, I forgot to mention on when we were on that topic, I do have some family connections with a couple of people that are really deeply involved at the epicenter in Vienna that have a wide breadth of nuclear information from birth to death on how the system works. And so I've reached out to him to join us here, and hopefully he will. And we'll all just sit in awe and listen to what he has to say about these topics, because we need to bring people in that have a mastery of their fields. And that is the only way we can forge this ahead. And Radish will be the platform to categorize this stuff and create connections between peoples to begin the solution, the beginning of the solving of the gaps that we all each individually have gaps. And the radish.org is going to fill those gaps with synapse-like connections between each other to get the people talking about these things that can help each other connected. So that's what.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad you mentioned the synaptic connections. So you can imagine on Radish, anyone who's a member of Radish, and it's free to sign up and be a member, can create whatever conversations and notably series of conversations you want on whatever topics you want. So we'll have groups forming and having conversations on nuclear and on our ecologies and on permaculture and on so many different topics. And then the synaptic connections that Jamie's talking about, those who choose to make their conversations public, and we hope most will, those conversations will be transcribed into text, indexed, and mapped to taxonomies of the world's problems, taxonomies of solutions, taxonomies of the world's needs, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And through the use of taxonomies and through the use of dynamic prioritization of the different objectives and projects mapping to those objectives, the artificial intelligence layers of Radish will be able to connect people to other people, conversations to other conversations, groups to other groups, and help the world get connected so that those critical combinations of people and organizations and other resources can come together to co-create real solutions to real problems. So when you join Radish, you'll basically have your own personal channel, and very importantly, you'll be able to connect and collaborate with whoever else you want to within the network, and you'll be able to put the word out and say, hey, I'm starting a series of conversations on this topic. Whether it's you're the only one starting it, you just talk for 5 minutes and just say what it is you want to start, right, and let other people jump in and join you, right, on the Radish network. So
it's gonna be great.
Yeah. And we're just starting with this small loose network, but fortunately we had the vision some years ago to build what is now Radish, and now it's just about to be launched. So join us, and this is going to be one heck of an exciting ride over the edge of the waterfall. Jettisoning and catapulting to shore everything that we can as we go down, right? But notably, this gives us meaning. It gives us a mission. It gives us purpose, right? And we humans, we thrive and live on meaning and purpose and mythology and story, whether we're aware of it or not, right?
We all chose to turn up at this time on can all be part of the solution. and do the right thing now, which is to turn our attention to the earth and not on Homo sapiens, not on the humans, so much as on having an earth-centric consciousness and really make different choices, take action now together.
Well, ultimately, too, on what to build on what they've all said, and to kind of, it's ultimately it would be best if we come at this with no agendas. The earth-saving aspect. It's not about saving individual species as much as it's about saving the essence of life in its various forms. Because ultimately, when this comes to an end, and if we're even partially successful, the species that evolve and survive into the future are going to be the ones that make the decision how things end up. So we can't even pack the ark with the assumption that this species or that species is going to thrive. We have to just have as much diversity as possible in the hopes that we've put enough diversity on there that something or some things take hold in the afterworld that's on its way. It's not about species. It's about the furtherance of life after we have failed this earth miserably. And so we have to get going on it. To get to that goal of picking the species, we need you guys to log on, wake up, and pay attention. It's here and it's right now. Jump in now, tonight. Jump in.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you. Please jump in
now.
Please jump in. Start off with your comments on this YouTube video, and as Radish becomes ready for you to join and really build it out on, we'll gradually move it over to Radish. But yeah, just jump in tonight, however you can. And if you'd like to invite yourself onto one of these talks, do so. Say, hey, I'd like to be on there. I'd like to talk about this or that, whatever. It's all good. All right. Send me a note. Send us a note. Send us your comments, and get you on.
Okay.
Hey.
So great hanging with you both. My goodness. And
awesome hanging with you both.
And it's great hanging with you all.
All of you.
Humanity.
Yes.
Fulfilling, productive, and hopeful.
Sorry, Jamie?
Fulfilling, productive, and hopeful.
Yes. Yeah, this gives us hope. This gives us hope in an otherwise hopeless situation. All right. Love you, my queen. Love you, brother.
Jamin. Love you, Jamie.
Love you, Jamie. Love
Bye.
you all.
Love you all.
See you next time.
Thank you so much. Bye for now.